Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Tommy Montelli, entrepreneur and former athlete, whose journey from the basketball court to the business has been marked by success and inspiration. Welcome to the show, Tommy.
Thank you, AJ. I'm looking forward to it. I've watched a few of your episodes and they're terrific. You have great guests, so I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much for your kind words. You are welcome to the show once again, Tom. You are welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll be talking about the parallels between athletics and life. So you have seen the court, the basketball court, and all these places. You know much about athletics, you know about entrepreneurship, and that is why I want to understand for the audience a bit of your journey, so that your journey can be the message in itself.
Yeah. Thank you, AJ. And what's interesting is I'm the youngest of 6 children, and my dad was a very well-known basketball coach in high school. And he was also a teacher at our high school, which is a Catholic high school called St. Joseph. So at a very early age, I was going to his practices at 2, 3, 4 years old. And he would bring me to his practices and he would be teaching his team. And I just fell in love with the game of basketball. And he was a world-class coach. He's in many Hall of Fames, and he won 878 games, which is the most games in New England history. But what's interesting, AJ, when someone would say, bring that subject up, he would say, well, I also lost 325 games. And he won 11 state championships, which is a record in Connecticut. When someone would bring that up, he'd say, yeah, but I also lost 7 state championship games. He was doing that because he was a very humble guy. He was modest, but he was world class. But he wanted his players to know and people to know that, yes, I've had a lot of amazing success, but I've also been on the other side of many difficult losses. And some of his best coaching, AJ, was ironically done off the court, not within the confines of a basketball court. Some of his best coaching was done off of the court, and we can get into a little bit of that when you have a chance. But
absolutely,
sports and athletics is what I grew up with. And let me tell you, there are amazing parallels between athletics and life.
Absolutely. And that is what I want to understand for a lot of people who are, into business, finding life sometimes very good, sometimes not so good. How should they look at, you are an entrepreneur yourself, how should they look at life itself or business itself, what they can learn from athletics? What have you learned from athletics from your dad, and what have you brought to your life and business, as well as how people can draw these parallels, take help from these parallels from athletics as well as life, and help themselves to make it a winning sort of a deal for themselves.
Yes, yeah, and that's a great point. The beauty of what we do, AJ, in sports is all your listeners know, it's a vast world of athletics. We focus, and my father's brilliance was focusing on the fundamentals, keeping it simple, not complicated, okay? And by focusing on the fundamentals, you build an incredible foundation of the basics. So in sports, he was a basketball coach. Every single day in practice, we would do the same exact drills. Now, I played for my dad in high school. I also coached with him for about 20 years. So every day, AJ, we would do the same drill over and over. Our footwork had to be perfect. Our positioning on the court, where our opponent was, where you are. And every day we're like, Dad, come on, we're doing the same thing over and over and over again. But then, AJ, when we got into a game, we knew exactly where we were going to be. We knew exactly where the opponent was going to be. Our footwork was perfect. So it was like it was easy in the game because we were anticipating what was going to happen. That only can occur if you are absolutely brilliant at the basics and you do the same thing over and over again every single day. And that's how you become a very good basketball team, when you prepare and you do the basics every day. Well, guess what, AJ? It is the same exact thing in this big world we live in life. The fundamentals are so important. Sometimes people who are getting stuck, or they're a little depressed, or they're getting some anxiety, AJ, they're so reluctant to find the closest lever that they can pull. Instead, they kind of reach for the stars. They want to get complicated. But there are 5 or 6 things, and we tell all our players, and we tell the people we coach, there's 5 or 6 things you can do right now, today, that could literally shift the trajectory of your mindset. They're not complicated. Okay, they're simple. Examples: get a good night's sleep. Go for a walk outside. Say you're sorry to somebody. Ask a friend for help. Journal about your thoughts. Meditate. Simple things that are there for you to use. They're not expensive. It's not fancy. But if you focus on the fundamentals, you're going to get yourself on the right track. So in sports, fundamentals are so critical, and it gets boring after a while. The same great coaches do the same thing over and over and over and over again, and that's why their teams are the most successful, because they start with the basics, and then eventually you can evolve to some complicated stuff. But if you focus on the basics in athletics and in your everyday life, you're going to be on the right track.
Right, absolutely, Tommy. Now, you talk about fundamentals, you talk about basics. When you talk about fundamentals, what is it nowadays in business, in life? Is it about the talent, or is it the mindset? What is more fundamental today when you are looking at those, at the basics or the fundamentals of life?
That's a great question. I'm going to answer in my way, and I would love to hear what your opinion is as well. In our experience, we've coached very talented basketball players. Some have gone on to play in professionally in the NBA for many years. So the best players in the world. We've also had some very talented players who didn't have the work ethic, didn't have the desire to become great. So they did not have long professional careers. So, and this is just my opinion of your question, but in my opinion, work ethic combined with the fundamentals outplays sheer talent every day of the week. No question about it. And there are many examples I can give you. There are many examples that your listeners can give you. But if you have world-class talent, and we have coached players, AJ, who were in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, where we said, this guy is going to play in the NBA someday. You could identify some of these kids at an early age, but because of their mentality, because of the people they surround themselves with, because people are telling them how great they are, they lost sight of the basics, the fundamentals. They started listening to all this stuff, and their career never went where it should have gone. On the other hand, we've had people with less talent, with incredible work ethics, with a great team, a family around them, that went on to do amazing things in athletics. So I think hard work, you got to have talent, but you got to be able to be coached, and that combination will outbeat incredible elite talent all day long.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now let me ask you one more thing. You said they can be surrounded by not so good people, yes men, and then you can lose your way, because those people are there only because of whatever success you achieve. Then you also talk about relationships in life. How then does one know what sort of right relationships they should look for, keep those relationships, and move forward in life? Because sometimes, people will say, I am very strong, I need to focus only on myself, and you achieve all the success, and then you find you have got nothing because no relationships are there. How do you look at this part?
Brilliant point. And AJ, we both know people like that who have achieved incredible success, world-class success, and all of a sudden they turn around and go, where is everybody? Where's my family? Where's my children? How about that? Where'd everybody go? You don't want to be in that position. So the people that you surround yourself with, and again, this is just my opinion, but I've been coaching sports for a long time. I've been coaching. We've had successful businesses, thank God. The people you surround yourself with, that is the most important thing. Because if you get a bunch of yes people, as you said, that doesn't do you any good. No one's going to tell you, hey, AJ, you know what? You're being a jerk lately. You're not being nice to your coworkers. I see how you talk to your children. I see how you talk to your wife. You need those people in your life to keep you accountable. And that is absolutely critical, which is why I always say everybody, I don't care who you are, could use a good coach, hopefully a great coach in their life. You don't have to pay for them, but it could just be someone who you trust and you admire and who is going to give you the straight answer.
Wonderful, wonderful, Tommy. Now let's talk about, a bit about your dad. A lot of players, a lot of successful people are very good, very talented, achieve a lot of success in the things that they do, either on the court or in business. But as soon as they are off it, their not so good side of life comes out. And, and people are, then their legacy is not so great.
Yes.
When we talk about your dad, you say he had an impactful impact on his players off the court.
Yeah.
How did he manage to do it on the court and off the court? Because that is very important.
Yeah, and that's a very good point, and that is what kind of separates, coaches from world-class coaches. Now, my dad coached till he was 80 years old. Okay, he was coaching high school basketball. He won his last state championship when he was 80 years old. He played a game in front of 9,000 fans. He was walking with a walker. Okay, and I had to help him onto the court, back into the locker room. But he did some of his best coaching when he was in his, late 70s to his 80s. And these were these players that he coached, AJ, were all different economic backgrounds, suburban kids, inner city kids. Some kids were wealthy, some kids were destitute. He had the ability to connect with everybody, and they knew that he would do anything for them. Okay, if they needed a ride if someone needed someone to watch their younger brother, he would say, bring them to practice and we'll keep an eye on him. The parents knew if they needed anything, they could call what they used to call coach, my dad. So over the years, he would do anything for his players. Now, he had very high standards. He did not mess around, and his players knew that. So they were very disciplined. They were very respectful. They were very humble. They also won at a very high level. So those are great combinations. If you can win, and you can win being humble, being hardworking, and set a good example and respectful, that's a heck of a combination. So his players knew he would do anything for them on the court or off the court. And as a result, they would run through a wall for him. So I think when you have that trust and your players or your employees have that trust in you, AJ, that you have their back, but at the same time, you're not going to let them slack. You're going to call them out when they need it. That is a wonderful combination. And that is how he got his players. And that is how great, elite business people maintain their organizations and their employees. And one of the reasons I got into entrepreneurship after college was because I wanted to be able to pick my own team. I've had great teammates all my life. And I liked the thought of, you can go pick your own team and develop a company with like-minded people, and then hopefully go do a lot of good for people and succeed.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Tommy. Now, one more of your dad's philosophy, and that was the reason for his success, was being a great guy or girl. Now, if you look at today's time, you are the great guy as long as you say yes to others. The day you don't say yes, you'd stop being the good guy or the great guy. How do you balance both the things, being the great guy or girl, as well as set boundaries for goodness of yourself as well as self-care? How do you do that?
I've watched a lot of your interviews, and you've had some wonderful guests on your show, AJ. And you are a terrific host. So thank you for that question, because this question is very, and this goes to the fundamentals. And I talk about my dad a lot. Last July, at 92 years old, my dad passed away. And he had such a big impact on people. So many people were impacted by the news of his death. Like in the basketball world, where we're kind of in the weeds and we're, people know us, they lost a legend. And it was because of his success, yes, but also because of the impact he had on his players and the people around him off of the court. So here's the answer to your question. My father would say, listen, again, we focus, AJ, on the fundamentals. So players would come back after high school. They'd come back and talk to my dad. And many times they would come back to my father and they would say, look, coach, they would come to him in times of duress. They were older. Their businesses were failing. Their marriages were failing. They were addictions were an issue. And just many times, these guys are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s even. And they'd come back to who they always call coach, because they trusted him and he built that trust. And they'd say, coach, I'm really struggling here. And he would say, the first thing you have to do, okay, he would talk about health and faith. Those are two things. But the first thing he would say, and he used to teach his young players this too, is you have to be a great guy. You have to be a great guy, first and foremost. And they'd say, well, what do you mean, coach? I'm a good guy. Yeah, but are you being great to the people who are important to you, to your spouse, to your children? Do your children know you love them? Does your spouse know you love them? Are you doing the things every single day to kind of emanate great positive energy. And he would tell them, you realize that when you are being a great guy, there's a cocktail of chemicals that literally goes flowing through your body. We won't get into that now. But when you're being a great guy, it elevates you. You're in a better mood. And so he would say, when you do something good for a person, you feel much, much better as a result of doing a good deed for somebody. But that person who receives the kind act also has this force of chemicals that goes through their body. They feel much better. But also, AJ, the people who witness the kind act, those people have that same chemical of that same flow of chemicals rushing through their body. And so he says, if you do one kind thing in a crowded room, it affects dozens of people. So why would you not do that? So he used to start off by saying, listen, first of all, you got to be a great guy to everyone around you, strangers, family members, everybody. And that kind of got, and then he would get into, you got to get back to your faith and you got to get back to your health. Those are two different things. But he would say, and we tell our AJ, the people that we have mentored and we work closely with, and we've worked with CEOs and first responders and guys into special forces and hedge fund, world-class hedge fund managers. We've all worked with and collaborated with and mentored these guys. And I'll say to them, hey, first thing you got to do, first thing we're going to cover is you got to be a great guy. Like, what do you mean, Tom? I own a company. I own 5 companies. Be a great guy. What are you talking about? Give me something complicated here. We say, no. Listen, zip it and listen for a second. And we go into it and they start to say, wow, that's interesting. Okay. That becomes the baseline of what we do. You got to be a good guy. And that's why I'm on this show, because I watched some of your episodes and you're a terrific guy.
Thank you, Tommy. Thank you so much. And that you sum up a lot of things, what our businesses need, what a lot of people need in today's time, to be the good company, to be the big-hearted company, to be the good guy, or be the good girl, or simply be the good human being. Now,
Yes.
One question I want to ask Tommy is to, being the son of such a famous father, well-known person, good person, the great guy person, can be a bit tough growing up as well as living up to those expectations from outside, because they will always look at you, compare you in a way. You cannot run away. And on the good part is that you have embraced it. You have never run from it. And that is a very great thing to see, because it can be very challenging sometimes. Sometimes you just don't want to be under that spotlight or the arc light of your, of your parents. You just want to create. And especially in an individualistic society like the US. But I see you have balanced both the things very, very well. What has been your experience? Have you ever felt any burden, or you always felt much more comfortable being around the great guy that you knew, who was the great guy for so many of the world itself?
Excellent point. And now my dad was my coach growing up, right? And he was a very tough coach. He had very high standards. And he would say to me, AJ, years later, do you know that I was never tougher on a player than I was on you? And he was tough on me. He felt a little worse about it as he got older, but I said, Dad, you were fine. It was a piece of cake. But the reason he did that, AJ, was because he didn't want everybody else to think that he was giving me special treatment. Now, we've had the fortune, we know a lot of basketball coaches who have coached their sons. I don't know if you follow college basketball in the States, but I live, AJ, in the basketball capital of the world, Connecticut. And Connecticut, UConn, University of Connecticut, just won their second national championship in a row. their coach is a guy named Danny Hurley, who I've known since we were little, and his dad is a world-class legendary coach as well. And so, being the son of a coach is sometimes a little bit tough because they are harder on you than anybody because they don't want anyone to think you got a free pass. So I always embrace that. Danny Hurley, my friend, embraced it. And I loved it because I saw the impact he had, my dad, as a coach, and I said, I want to do that. I want to do that. He was big on service, AJ. And I'm going to give you a quick thing. We've come up with this thing we teach all our coaches and all of our clients. And it's a basketball term, but we call it miss. You want to miss. When you get stuck, when you feel in a rut, when you're not feeling great, things aren't going the way you want them to go, AJ, we want you to miss every day, MISS. Now, if you're a basketball player, you don't want to miss. You want to make all your shots, or as most of them as you can. When you get older, we say you want to miss. And here's what we mean. My father, we talked about this many times. This is what we tell our coaches and the folks that we mentor and our clients. Every day, you got to move. Now, a lot of your guests, I've watched your episodes, a lot of them are they understand the importance of health and physical fitness. And I've seen, so you got to move every day, get your body going. There's, again, that flow of cocktails goes through your body. It's incredible. It helps you. It's like taking Ritalin or Prozac if you work out. If you don't work out, studies have shown it's like taking an antidepressant. So you got to move every day. Second thing, improve every day. Grow, expand, get better every day. Okay? Read, watch, and listen, we say. Read a great book. Watch a great podcast like yours. Listen to great audiobooks, and then watch great videos of people who are you can go on Instagram. Don't waste your time on social media, but you can go on Instagram or YouTube and watch world-class thought leaders, business leaders give advice for free. So read a book, watch a great podcast, listen to a great audiobook. Move, improve, serve every day. Serve. My father was so big on this, and I know your guests and your audience understands the importance of serving. Do something for somebody else. Okay? It is, my father used to say, it's not about me, it's about we. So go do something. You don't have to donate a bunch of money, but do something good for somebody. Hopefully someone who really needs it. So serve every day. And the last thing is shut up every day. Now, spend some, which we mean is take a block of time every single day and block it off to be by yourself in solitude. Quiet. Don't do no distractions, no phone, no email, no this, no that. You spend time by yourself. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, up to you. What are we going to do? You're going to pray. You're going to meditate. You're going to just sit there and think. Be with your thoughts. So every day we say 4 things. If you're stuck, you got to move, you got to improve, you got to get better, you got to grow, you got to expand, you got to serve other people. And you know this, AJ, when you serve others, it's an incredible feeling. And you serve others every single day with your show. I've watched it. You're amazing. So if you move, improve, you serve, and then you shut up. You spend some time every day in solitude without distractions. Those are 4 fundamentals. Not complicated, right, AJ? Those aren't complicated things to do. But if you miss every day, for your listeners, hopefully they'll remember that. Those are 4 things that'll put you in a terrific state of mind. And if you're in a rut, you're a little depressed, that's a great beginning to get you out of that rut.
Wonderful. Well put, Tommy. My last question is this. How did your father wanted to be remembered? How would you like to be remembered?
So I will tell you this. Many times, AJ, and I read a lot and I listen to a lot of people and I go to a lot of classes and masterminds, and people say, and you've heard this too, pretend you're at your funeral, okay? And think into the future, and you're at your funeral, your own funeral, and you're up in heaven, hopefully, and you're looking down. What are the people saying about you at your funeral? And I will tell you this, my father passed away in July last year. We had a wake, and there were thousands of people at the wake. The church was full to capacity with people who were there to pay their respects. So he had a tremendous positive impact on many, many people. He used to say, "I'm not rich," because he was a high school teacher at a private school. He had 6 children. He hustled. But he would say, "I'm not rich monetarily, but I'm rich. I'm really wealthy." And what he meant is by the impact and the folks who understood what he was about. So to answer your question, he nailed it. He did it the right way. Because when we were literally at his funeral, like people tell you to think about, what are people going to be saying about you at your funeral? He impacted a lot of people, and they were saying wonderful things about him at his funeral. So AJ, I only hope that I can have a smidgen, this much of an impact on people that my father had. And that is my hope.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Your words create that impact. And words leave that impact. Words can be the legacy that one wants to. And these great words, this great wisdom that you have shared, I'm sure will continue to reverberate for a long, long time. There is much to understand about life from you, Tommy, and what life is made up about, other entrepreneurship, business, and everything that makes up of life. So for those people who would like,
I thank you for those words.
not at all. So for all those people who would want to know more about life, more about entrepreneurship, more about how one can be a great guy, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
I'm just figuring out the social media stuff, right? Because I really just, it was so impactful last July when my father passed away that I said to myself, you know what? You got to do more. Businesses are doing well, thank God. You got to do more. And so I have a website, which is called professionalswinning.com. And you can go to the website, and there's some stuff on the website about us, and you can find us there. Eventually, maybe we'll get on social media. It scares me a little bit, but so that is it, professionalswinning.com, and then you can get a hold of us.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you, AJ.